Once upon a time, in the magical land of fleet management, there lived a newly promoted fleet manager. Maybe they came up from the shop floor. Maybe they were dropped into the role from a totally different department. They had trucks. They had people. But they had no idea what metrics they were supposed to track. That's where Nathan comes in.
Hey everybody, it's Nathan from RTA, the Fleet Success Company. Wanted to talk to you guys today about metrics and KPIs. This is a very common topic that I get asked about a lot when I travel around and talk to fleets and help them improve their operations. Usually it comes from those fleet managers that have been newly promoted. Maybe they came up from the ranks of being a technician, or people that come from outside of fleet and are new to fleet management, and their organization isn't really asking them, to provide any type of metric or KPI.
If you're nodding along already, you're not alone. Whether you're brand new to fleet or just never had to report on anything, starting with KPIs can feel like decoding alien math. So, where do you begin?
So there is a couple that, I always point out and say, hey, these are two or three that you can get started with if you've never tracked anything and nobody's asking for them. They're important. Uh, and other fleets have different metrics and things that, are important to them, so that's the things that they track. But I want to give you guys just a couple of basic ones to get started with. And really, as you start tracking those and start looking into the data, you're going to find other what we call feeder metrics that go into these that can have an effect on how these metrics come out.
Start simple, because once you track a few high level metrics, everything else, like parts, labor, and PM timing, starts falling into place. Let's dive into the ones Nathan recommends.
So overall, I would say the biggest metric of all that we should be looking at is availability or downtime, right? Some people track downtime, some people track availability. One's just the inverse of the other. But basically, it's saying what is the availability of our fleet to the organization so that they can complete that mission. If we're a trucking fleet, how many trucks and trailers are available to the organization to dispatch and move freight? So it really comes down to just simply looking at what's out there and available. That's our whole mission in fleet, is to provide safe, reliable assets and available assets to the organization so they can complete their mission. So to me, and I would say to most fleet managers, availability or downtime, probably the number one metric. Okay, we should be watching that one for sure.
Call it downtime, call it availability, either way, it's the heartbeat of your fleet. If it's not ready to roll, the job's not getting done, and every delay costs you more than just time.
Now, there's a lot of stuff, like I said, that feeds into that. I mean, even stuff in parts can feed into affecting availability. Utilization stuff can affect availability. Obviously, shop operations can affect availability. PM schedules can even affect availability. So a lot of stuff that feeds into that, but that is definitely one that we should be looking at. Okay. So number two, in my opinion, again, a lot of fleets and some fleet managers have varying opinions, and that's okay. But overarching, I think, is PM compliance. PM compliance is a big metric we should be looking at. It's basically saying I have this many PMs that are scheduled. Did we complete them on time? If our PMs are late, we're not getting our scheduled maintenance in on time, so we're not operating an efficient shop possibly. But it also can affect things like increasing risk, right? If we don't do a PM on time and let's say it's just 2 weeks late, if we have a catastrophic failure on that asset, we probably would have caught that during that PM.
Preventive maintenance isn't just about oil changes. It's about catching problems early, avoiding downtime, and keeping costs from blowing up. Literally.
It also can help us keep maintenance costs lower. Because again, if we have that catastrophic failure that we could have caught during the PM, now our maintenance cost to get that asset repaired and back on the road is probably tenfold.
Surprise repairs are great for drama, but bad for your bottom line. If your shop feels like a never ending game of whack a mole, this metric's your red flag.
Utilization is another one, that I would say as an overall fleet metric is a good one to start looking at. How often, are the assets being utilized, and not just how many miles are they going, right? Or how many days was it used? sometimes its use case needs to come into play into utilization. It can travel 3 miles, but the person might be working out of that asset, right? Think about like police cars. A police car might only drive 5 or 10 miles in the daytime, but they're doing a lot of work out of that vehicle. It doesn't mean that vehicle is not being utilized. It's just not actually moving. Okay, so utilization has some varying things that we need to look at when we consider utilization. Utilization is another big one. I don't know if I would say it's a top 3. I think that's one that you get into maybe further down the road, but something to consider as an overall fleet metric.
Don't let mileage fool you. Just because a vehicle doesn't rack up the odometer doesn't mean it's sitting idle. Look at how it's used, not just how far it drives.
Now, as we get into some of the different areas of fleet management, there's a lot of different metrics for the shop. Labor times as far as direct versus indirect, stuff in parts, fill rates, things like that. But in its very basic form, if you're just getting started with KPIs, availability, PM compliance, and then maybe scheduled versus unscheduled repairs, those are probably top 3. And again, varying opinions may change that. Your fleet may have some different requirements, and that's okay too. But that's a couple to get you started if you've never had KPIs or metrics to look at. Somewhere to start, right? And like I said, as you start digging into the data, you're going to start finding other, feeder metrics and KPIs that affect those things. But that'll at least get you started.
So to recap, the big ones: availability, PM compliance, scheduled versus unscheduled repairs, and yes, utilization if you're ready to dig deeper. You don't need a dashboard full of blinking lights just to get started. Just a few solid KPIs tracked regularly can help you run a smarter, safer fleet. So to recap, availability, PM compliance, scheduled versus unscheduled repairs, and utilization if you're ready for it. Thanks again to Nathan from RTA Fleet for breaking it all down for Work Trucks Fleet 101.